This video is very delayed, but I also feel like I needed about three to 5 weeks to process my thoughts and feelings about the movie Madam Web and how it made me feel and how it sent me so far under. I too was drowning like Cassie at the end of the movie, except I have my vision. So, he was in the Amazon with my mum when she was researching spiders right before she died. An iconic line from an iconic movie. Very notorious now. The best part of this quote was it was from the trailer. This line is not in the movie. Maybe they realized when the trailer was released, let's just go back and cut that one out. I love it. It's so absurd. My favorite thing was watching Dakota Johnson get interviewed about this line and her being like, I don't understand. I feel like she's just been memeing us for 6 months, which I respect it, honestly. If I was in Madam Web, I'd do the exact same thing. If you weren't laughing, you were probably crying, and the tears were probably coming from the pain Madam Web inflicted on your body, because it was a painful experience. It's rare for me to say a movie is the worst movie I've ever seen, but I could safely say this is up there with one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen some bad movies. I've seen the third Deep Blue Sea. That film made no sense. I saw The Meg too. The Meg was barely in it. Pretty sure the Kraken showed up at the end. You can also tell not a single ounce of Dakota Johnson wanted to do this movie. Or maybe she was in it for the paycheck. Part of me thinks she really thought she was joining the MCU. Realized too late, this is not the MCU. This appears to be Sony, which would be a shock to the system for anyone. I'm not even an actor, and if I woke up in a Sony movie, I would probably cry. And to be honest, I feel bad for Dakota. She's getting a lot of backlash, she's getting a lot of heat for her reaction to the movie. She's quick to throw others under the bus. She did fire her agent. To be fair, I would have probably fired my agent too. This movie was hot garbage. But honestly, just let the woman work. Let her move on. Let her redeem herself. If you've seen The Peanut Butter Falcon, we know she can act. She can act her chops off. Is that even a sentence? She's got acting chops. Franchises are not for her. We've learned that with 50 Shades of Grey. You know, just ditch it. So let's recap Madam Web, shall we? Start to finish. There may be some spoilers here. That's fine. I assume most of you who are watching haven't seen it and don't plan on seeing it, or you have seen it and you're ready to just laugh about it. So let's dive into it. This was a 2024 superhero movie, stars Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney. She is so bad in this movie, particularly bad. She's so monotone. She's always like, guys, we should listen to her. Guys, we should stay here. Guys, Cassie told us to stay here. It's like, shut up and just do something. Adam Scott is also in this movie as Uncle Ben. Emma Roberts is in this as Mary Parker. And guess what? She's preggers. Can you guess with who? If it takes you a while to guess, then this video is not for you. Okay, so Madam Web is set in 2003. Let that sink in. Remember those details, because this is the most un-2003 movie I've ever seen. It follows Cassie Webb. It's Madam Web's origin story. We love an origin story, except this one. She is forced to confront her past when she encounters 3 young women who she has to save because they are being hunted down by Ezekiel Sims, a guy who has Spider-Man powers and has seen into the future that these 3 young girls are going to come after him and they will be his demise. So he wants to rid of them before they get their own powers and take him down. It's a terrible plot. It's also incredibly misleading and so far removed from the comics. Anyway, the movie kicks off in 1973. And if you thought New York in 2003 didn't look like New York in 2003, the Amazon in 1973 looks like it could have been taken today. This movie looks like, no matter what, it was just filmed today and is set in 2024. So we're in the Amazon, it's 1973, and we're with Cassie's mum. She is exploring and looking for a tribe. She's looking for spiders, because I think we find out, what is it? What's the plot again? Cassie's sick. I think that's the thing. Her baby has a genetic disorder or some kind of disease in utero, and so she goes to the Amazon. She's trying to hunt down this tribe who have superhuman abilities because of certain spiders. So she's looking for them. She wants to save her baby. But obviously Cassie doesn't know that, so she's sort of grappling with her past and her memory of her mother, even though she doesn't have a memory of her mother because she never met her. But she believes her mother just off to the Amazon and abandoned her essentially and died for no reason. Which leads us to one of my favourite quotes, which was, "Hope the spiders were worth it, Mum." Cringe. Pure cringe. Okay, so Ezekiel Sims is in the jungle with Cassie's mum. He's her bodyguard of sorts. But he will betray her, and he does, because he wants that spider for himself. He's greedy. But I should also state, Ezekiel Sims has the worst ADR I've ever heard in a movie. For some reason, it seems like his entire dialogue was dubbed. I'm not really sure why. I don't know if it was a stylistic choice. It was horrific. Anyway, Cassie's mum gets the spider. He then steals the spider from her, but in the process, he attacks her, and she's now dying. He gets Spider-Man abilities. He gets enhanced strength, health abilities, and clairvoyance. Cassie obviously has this too, because as Cassie's mother's dying, the tribe that they were looking for in the Amazon comes out of nowhere. They sweep her up. They take her to this special little water pool area, and then they put a spider on her, and the spider bites her, and they're trying to save her, and then obviously the baby. But it's too late for the mum, but Cassie's okay, and then she births the baby right before she dies. So Cassie is fine. She now has powers. She's a little baby. She's in the Amazon. How she gets to New York after that is beyond me. We will never know. Those questions aren't answered, so it's best that we don't ask them. Bigger question is, Cassie's powers don't kickstart until she's 30 and she has a near drowning incident. That's not explained either. Not really sure why there's a time limit on the powers kickstarting, or if you have to go through a very traumatic event in order to earn your powers. Who knows? This movie will never tell you the answers. She is now in New York. Obviously, how she got there, we don't know. She is a paramedic, but the funny thing is she's a paramedic who hates saving people, which makes it particularly funny. So she is a hero who doesn't want to be a hero, and that becomes more apparent when she actually has to become a hero. She then begins seeing the future. It obviously takes her a while to control it, as any hero struggles with their powers in any superhero movie. But the best thing is, it's just pure cringe. Like, she'll see the future, and then she'll come back to present moment, and then she'll just be like, whoa, what just happened? Did you guys see that? That was crazy. And they're like, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, you guys are screwing with me. You guys are messing with my head. We all saw that, right? And they're like, no. And she's like, well, stop playing around, guys. It's like, Cassie, no one saw what you saw. And then also, she sees the future, but it seems to only happen when she senses someone is in danger. But there was a moment where she's at Mary Parker's baby shower, and the clairvoyance kicks in when they're talking about the baby's name. So that is the only other instance, I believe, in the movie where it's just a random event and she gets her clairvoyance kicks in. Any other time, it's just someone's about to die or someone's in peril. Okay, at this point, Ezekiel's a hotshot businessman. He has an empire. We don't really know what the empire is. We don't know how he got it. We know nothing because the film refuses to explain anything to us. We just have to go along for the ride and accept what is unfolding in front of our eyes. Ezekiel still has the worst ADR I've ever heard. Every line is cringe. So he essentially uses technology that scans his brain to find the three girls he's been having visions about in order for him to be able to hunt them down and take them out before they get to him. To do this, he did have to sleep with an agent, a government agent, because the government was the only one that possessed this technology that could scan faces. He had to get a key from this woman, and instead of just taking it from her, he slept with her first. That didn't make sense, but we're rolling with it. So Cassie already knows all the girls that are being hunted down by Ezekiel. One lives in her apartment. One she almost hit with her ambulance, and the other she saved one of her family members. It's great. We're all connected. It's a web. You get it? Web of connections. Don't worry, that's hinted to so many times throughout the movie about her web. And every time Cassie does this throughout the movie and is connected to the web, I want to die inside. Okay, so at this point, Ezekiel's hunting down the girls. Cassie saves them because she's having these visions. She finds them all on a train one day, and then she takes them all. They get in a taxi because they steal a taxi. It's excellent. There's so many crimes committed in this movie. It's incredible. They take the taxi. They run away. She takes them to the woods, and then she's like, hey, I have to go and do something. Can you guys just stay here? And then she's like, I'll be back in 3 hours. So she's just abandoning these teenage girls who she knows are in active danger in the woods at night with no food. And she's like, I'll be back in 3 hours. Just stay here. No worries. There's probably wolves in those woods. But she's not thinking about that. Cassie doesn't care. She doesn't even want to be a hero. So she leaves. She gets back in a taxi and then she goes. The girls are like, we're hungry, we're obviously not going to stay here. That's when Sydney Sweeney is like, guys, Cassie told us to stay here, we should listen to her. And then they all start bullying Sydney Sweeney. But anyway, they end up going to a diner, and then there's a group of guys at a table. Somehow all three girls just start dancing on the table. At this point, Cassie's already having visions. She sees all the girls in peril at the diner, specifically Sydney Sweeney. But don't worry, Cassie saves the day. She plows that taxi through the diner, grabs the girls, and they get out of there. One of my favorite scenes, I can't remember if it happened right before this. I don't know if it happened when she was like, be right back. But Cassie goes to her apartment, looks in at a special box she has under a bed that has all the memories of her mother, pictures. Again, the pictures that were taken from 1973 look so 4K, it's hilarious. It's the best pictures I've ever seen in my life. And then she starts to read all her mother's notes on the spiders and the superhero powers they can give you. And then she starts to realize, oh my God, I must have that. So then she tries to climb a wall and she falls. She just slides down the wall. It's so painful. The climax of this movie made zero sense. Leading up to it, Cassie tries to teach the girls some, basic skills of survival because they don't know what the hell they're doing. So she teaches them CPR because that's the one thing she can teach them, because obviously she was a paramedic, so she knows how to do CPR. She also says, if you get tired, switch out. This will obviously become more relevant later, but it actually has no impact on us whatsoever, that we really don't care about this point. So there's a big fight scene. It's on top of a building. It's Ezekiel, it's Cassie, it's the three girls. It is the worst ending I've seen. All three girls are on top of the building. They all manage to end up in perilous situations. One's like hanging off a beam. The other's just like balancing. The other one's just like dangling. Like they're all just on the verge of dying. And so Cassie has to decide how she's going to do this, She's having visions of them all. And then in like 10x speed, she manages to save them all. And obviously her web connects them. It's so painful. We don't even get the satisfaction of seeing this unfold. It just happens like that. And then suddenly they're all safe and they're just stood on the building. But the best part comes next when Cassie is fighting Ezekiel. And then somehow she ends up in the water again, back to a near drowning incident. But she doesn't end up the same after this. She's both paralyzed and blind now. But don't worry, the girls saved her because they learned CPR. And when they got tired, they switched out. But yeah, Cassie's now blind. That didn't make much sense to us, why the hell she's gone blind. But don't worry, they made the point at the end of the movie to be like, she can see clearer now than she did before. Hurts. It physically hurts. I think most people saw this movie because it became a meme, because of the pure hate. It wasn't just normal hate, because Morbius went through the meme effect, The writers who did this wrote Morbius, except this movie made Morbius look good. This movie, utter garbage. You couldn't pay me to watch this again. Also, our rage comes from the fact that the trailer was very misleading. It shows all three girls in their Spider-Women outfits. They don't even become Spider-Women. They've got no powers in this movie. So don't trick us into believing the plot of this film is going to be drastically different. Also, not to mention, in the comics, Madam Web is born blind. So the whole thing is just very peculiar, and the backstory is bizarre. The writing's really horrific, and not to mention the editing. Whew, those choices were not it. Clairvoyant sequences, horrible. It's just a mess. The whole thing's a mess. How this got greenlit is beyond me. It's a good meme-worthy film. And it's great just looking at the actors and thinking every single one of them right now hates their life. Also, the wig they put Sydney Sweeney in, poor girl. I feel for her. I feel very, very bad for her. That pretty much wraps up all of Madam Web. Let me know in the comments if you watched it and what your reviews were. Would you watch a sequel if it was made? If a sequel gets made, there is no possibility a sequel would get made for this film. But if it does, would you watch it? And we know for a fact Dakota Johnson would not be in it, but part of me feels like she might have signed her life away right now when she signed on to Madam Web. And I sure hope she didn't, because we know she hates her life. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.